Hi, everyone. Hey, we recently announced LTHS 1.1 Enterprise, so I thought it might make sense to show a little bit more, take a look under the hood, if you will. I'm really excited to share it with you because this is something that has the potential not only to transform enterprises all over the world, but to transform each of our lives and the lives of our planet and all its inhabitants. So this is something that has a tremendous impact, potential for us globally. And it really begins with this very type of thing of sitting down, taking a look at it, penciling it out, seeing if it makes sense for us. Well, LTHS 1.1 itself, it's a universal operating system, meaning it's an underlying architecture that everything shares, everything imaginable, including imaginations, including stories, including our cosmos, including hydrogen, including stars, including DNA, including enterprises. So it's something that's very powerful because of it, and it provides us access to something new that we are calling story energy, that we kind of use in our daily lives, but it's kind of loosely coupled and abstract, and it's not able to be engineered and harnessed as effectively as it could be. And in fact, these story energies in their abstract layers are often playing out against us or in our favors, like trade winds or currents of an ocean or a tide, or even storms. But within layers, in abstraction, we just see it as a whole bunch of negative stories happening all around us, all at the same time. But in the right context, LTHS 1.1 being that context, it serves like a lens to be able to put that into focus and to be able to see the bigger story hiding within the layered stories underneath. So this is a unique opportunity in our history to take advantage of something so universal and so powerful and apply it into our enterprises and daily lives. This LTHS 1.1 stands for Layered Ternary Harmony Story, ternary being 3, the trilogy, if you will, story, mind, and state, or the states of positive, negative, and no state change. This white paper is the basis of all of this. Everything is anchored to this. It has over 100 scientific references, and it's been accepted for presentation at the upcoming The Science of Consciousness Conference hosted by the University of Arizona in September of 2020. So this is a real deal kind of stuff that we're anchored into, and I provide a little website here at Harmonic Paradise Studios. You can find the white paper and look for yourself. Pardon me. Well, as we move forward with this LTHS 1.1 presentation, we're in the midst of a global collapse. Or from another lens, from an LTHS 1.1 lens, we're in the midst of a global renaissance. The collapse of the dinosaur legacy polluting, oppressing system of old that got us here, by the way, so that's noble. To make way for the new smartphone, cloud-based, consciousness-based, unified new reality. Based on a whole lot of new discoveries, beginning with the Layered Ternary Harmony Story 1.1 operating system, a universal operating system that is shared by all things, including black holes, stars, atoms, our DNA, water, our planet, our human colony. So we have now access to a really tremendous, new, exciting tool that's going to take us to all sorts of new places as humankind. So in this global renaissance, I think basically it's obvious to everybody what's going on. We are seeing the collapse, and this very presentation is proof that we are seeing the birth of a new frontier in the midst of the collapse, all occurring on 2020, which I believe marks this as a new global renaissance where we discover our unified computing nature. Well, crazy times. All right. Well, just to briefly touch on LTHS 1.1, what we've done is we've taken our current view, which is called by LTHS, we view it as a separation story. We see everything as separate. Everything is separate. Everything is not just separate, but basically very physical based. Reality is defined on what we've defined it as within our culture, within our norm, and everything outside of that is paranormal, super reality, with lots of inconsistencies, beginning with the fact that the only thing that's not imaginary is what might be called the now moment, and the now moment is a continuously moving target. So what's only a half second past or half second in the future is already imaginary world and not real. So anyways, there's lots of different inconsistencies and discontinuities with the current separation story. And this new, this segmented story has produced the results we're seeing all around us today. But including this discovery of LTHS 1.1, which the internet played a key role in connecting all the dots, allowing for the dots to be connected to discover this layered abstract story motor, right in front of our eyes that runs this universe. So right away, what you would see is now a unification instead of a separation story. It's a unification story that's basically chopped up into the physical world that we've known and defined. So that's kind of as we've known and defined it, but we've added two new layers. We've added a software and a CPU layer to that. So that would be, in terms of LTHS, that would be a story and a story consciousness layer. And the physical layer that we are currently defining ourselves as is the physical state response to story and mind layers, to software and CPU layers. So you could also say unequivocally that these newly discovered layers are the big layers for us, because the story and the mind control the state. And so this would be a leapfrog for progress for us to adjust our consciousness lens to see our universe and ourselves in as such. All of this basically overlays in templates of layers of stories, including seasons, including polarity, and then the layers, not only the physical, the CPU, which would be the consciousness layer or mind layer, and the software layer, which would be the story layer. There are layers of stories within them. The highest story being the story that spawns all this, which I've labeled as Paradise Story. It's expanding harmony, consciousness, and everything else that goes with it, ever expanding. So I call that Paradise because that is indeed what it is for all. Given that this is a unified system. There's no exception. Everything is part of this system. Everything, every thought, every possibility falls within this computing system that runs over a hydrogen cosmos that is expressing itself in layers, including helium, stars, their elements, molecules, everything, black holes, this planet, each of us, our cells in our body, the water of our planet, the water in the entire cosmos, everything. And all of this is captured in a new formula that can be used for engineering things, such as re-engineering the enterprise, re-engineering enterprise Salesforce, enterprise operations. It allows for the universal engineering and best practice application, which is really the best part of it, is that once you can take, it's like taking an x-ray. You can take an x-ray of your enterprise, but from an abstract layered story basis, and then like a doctor, a surgeon, one would be able to go in and correct things and make the proper adjustments to really fine tune things and take it where it really wants to go. So, and then to that, all of that, again, I mentioned this layered hydrogen cosmos that forms itself into a chemical basis and molecular basis, which include water and include basically all methyl-headed structures such as proteins, DNA, and fats. So we see a water methyl backbone that is common to all life and physical consciousness operating universally on this planet and beyond, because these are all universal properties. These occur not just on this planet but anywhere with these similar conditions. So again, beating a dead horse here, but this is universal. It means that everything shares this operating system, which means this is tremendously powerful because our enterprise shares this, our sales force shares this, our employees' lives share this, our customers' lives share this, our communities' lives share this, and the well-being of our whole planet shares this, as everything else beyond it. So this is a really powerful new tool. I hope I've been able to convince some of you about that and develop an interest. So what we would do basically then is take this LTHS 1.1 discovery, it's use it as a motor, if you will, and create an LTHS 1.1 enterprise, which currently exists basically as a manual operation that I can provide manually right now. But it all exists. And from here, I will someday in the near future train others to replicate myself and the ability to do this, and then eventually this will migrate on to online tools, if you will, so that all would have access to these things without the need of a certified engineer. So it's just a natural progression of things. But right now, all of this that I'm describing exists, but it'll exist in a manual form, myself being the only one currently qualified to do this. But that's just temporary. So we would take this take our legacy enterprise, take an X-ray of it, and then re-engineer it precisely to where we want it to be, and then use these new story energy forces to freely allow it to spawn itself into a manifestation of something that's far better, far more of a delivery of what each of us had in mind all along, what we really wanted to deliver to ourselves, our families, our communities, to the marketplace. And we've all experienced some limitations one way or the other of our current separation story. There's not a single one of us that hasn't. So, an example. So applying kind of this notion, just to look one more layer under the hood. How would this mean inside of an enterprise to do this X-ray snapshot? Well, it would take an example like this, for instance. Current scenario, you've got an enterprise, and you've got a customer, and you've got sales, and you've got revenue, right? That's straightforward. We change all that with LTHS 1.1, beginning with redefining these targets of revenue and sales to something new and expanded, but still appropriate. Let's say these are treasures in some way. What are all the things that are very, very interesting to us from a company point of view? Well, yes, of course, improving our income, but improving costs is also interesting. If we were somehow able to improve the progress for our communities or something, that would be interesting to us too. If we were to improve the abundance for ourselves, for our employees, our customers, our owners, this would be good too. You see how that goes. When we add these layers, and all that does, though, is it expands our menu of options when we go back to re-engineer and look at how to achieve our highest possible missions, our highest possible objectives, when all things are possible now. Not just with the left hand tied behind your back because that's the way the rules were once written before the age of computers, well before the age of computers. This is a refresh and update. We expand these out very strategically so that then we're able to go and layer on the LTHS 1.1 infrastructure. which then now basically defines things out into three parts. The three parts being story, mind, and the state, if you will, the state response, if you will, of the mind that's responding to the story. And what that means is, that means you focus on the story you want and the mind required to get to that story, and the rest naturally responds and follows it. So it's pretty much almost the opposite of our current approach that is very physical based. We'll change our target and we point out into the future, out into this story, and we program in then how the minds need to be programmed to achieve that story. What kind of minds achieve that story? And then the rest naturally happens if we build the story right. And that's when we layer that LTHS 1.1 architecture on top of the whole thing. Unifying customers, employees, owners, executives, managers, unifying everything, every aspect universally within that structure. Defining a high watermark, if you will, with the highest common stories, and a low watermark with the lowest common story denominators amongst all, and then beginning to use that to repoint and re-engineer at a universal level. Every single process, like a pixel, can be engineered, calculated, placed, tuned, groomed via this new LTHS 1.1 model. That's the power. We now begin to become in control of our destiny now, not just as a human, but as an enterprise, as a collection of humans now organizing around a common principle of organization that is able to achieve perfection in its execution of loose but harmonious parts. That's where we're headed with this renaissance. Package that all up into an offering to the enterprise with LTHS 1.1 Enterprise, which basically breaks down into a couple of modules, something for the sales team I call a sales manifester to transform sales into manifestation, a whole new process, and then the universal workplace, which takes workplaces and makes them fully virtual and then injects them with the power of story, a whole new way of interacting with things, where we place our company onto a smartphone, and without anyone contractually obligated to pick that up and do anything for us. And then we build in the stories that create the natural attractions and to create the natural work, basically for free, or nearly free, once we build the story right. Then a certified engineer program to go with that, which basically amounts to a certification test that I will be putting together shortly, and an LTHS 1.1 Academy to prepare and certify these engineers, and an LTHS 1.1 partner program so that the LTHS 1.1 Enterprise can quickly become an offering worldwide through a whole network of wonderful LTHS 1.1 partners, creating an instant new system, ecosystem, if you will. And again, all of this currently can be delivered manually by me, and I'm committed to training more engineers, certify them so that others can do what I do, and I'm committed to participating in the rollout of online version of these tools and their next generations into the cloud, so that everyone could benefit from it. So that's where we're headed with all of this. Okay, and just as we're finishing things up. A quick look here. Here's an example of how enterprises and how everything is situated today, running on separation stories. Everything's just separate. The company's separate, the employees are separate, the customers are separate from the company, and then we go home into separate lives, and then we buy things from separate people, and everything's charged and paid for and taxed and this and that. And okay, so that's currently. and with all the costs associated with for the collection of all these people's daily lives. Imagine all the different transactions that happen, all the different services, all the different bank accounts, all the different things that happen for this group of people that happen to live and work there, but in this separate mode. With LTHS 1.1, we unify all that. We unify it to then deliver a very well-engineered menu of very attractive things that will attract all the right employees and customers to us naturally, nearly free of charge, or at very low cost at least compared to what we're doing today. And we unify all that, and we take out all the savings of, we save all the things we take out from the processes that had been involved up until then by unifying things now. Much like what happens when the kids are living at the house with the parents, where everything's not charged and billed and accounted for separate. It just happens. It's carefree in that way. We're able to now extend that umbrella out as far as we wish, including worldwide, with LTHS 1.1, and in a very specific engineered manner that can be calculated, measured, projected, etc. And then here's an example, pretty close to what the major chapters, if you will, of deliverables are, that would appear as an online master cookbook, if you will, of best practices, for best sales practices, if you will, best enterprise operations practices, best customer service practices, these types of things, from an LTHS 1.1 point of view. An online catalog of online sales training videos of LTHS 1.1 sales videos, quarterly maybe LTHS 1.1 sales workshops led, maybe even online video kind of thing, video conference by a certified LTHS 1.1 story energy engineer. And daily support by a certified LTHS 1.1 story energy engineer. These are all things that would come turnkey, all-inclusive as part of this program. So, that's pretty much where I'm at today in terms of building out this thing. It's already enough to share. I hope that I can. I hope I've gotten some excitement from some of you. Who might make a good candidate? Well, where this is at right now, it's looking for that sponsor. It's Tesla getting together with Westinghouse, if you will, or with J.P. Morgan. Not a great example, but you know what I mean. Where the inventor teams up with the sponsor, and they apply it somewhere. Where might it be applied? Somewhere where they're hungry, somewhere where they're extremely successful and they can comfortably take risk, or somewhere where their backs are against the wall and they really have nothing to lose. These are all cases that immediately today might make sense for exploring LTHS within the enterprise. This could be it could be a big publicly traded company where you put it into a small division or a small region, a smaller product or something, and just use it as a guinea pig. You test it, you try it, and then do things with it, tinker. Or a private company that has full control over whatever they want to do, where they want to go, and they don't have anybody to answer to on that. So these are all great possible candidates, and if you see yourself in any one of these, or you feel a real emotional response to what you've heard today, then please, I encourage you, connect, and thank you very much.
Announcing the miraculous arrival to Earth of Paradise Story Starship, Paradise for All.
Climb aboard! The Separation Story Starship you're on is sinking! Climb aboard!